These are the allottees of the SK Apo layout in the Federal Capital Territory. Hand in hand, they embarked on a peaceful protest to demand that their land be returned to them. The bone of contention is these large expanses of land. Though the land is already undergoing development, the protesters are insisting that the property was rightfully allocated to them by the Federal Housing Authority, and they had the papers to prove that.
In appeal court, the case was ruled in our favor, and the court gave us pleas to enforce that judgment. So it has already been executed. But suddenly, after the execution of the judgment, 2 weeks after, they came and picked up our boys, locked them up, and they put other policemen to ensure that we, the original owners, don't have access.
The ENL and the police have violated the court order. And then when we go to police locations, police will be denying that they did not violate any order, that they have not come here to remove anybody. But then there are policemen in their arms.
The protesters argue that the matter has already been resolved in their favor at the Court of Appeal. Their only demand is for the authorities of the Federal Housing Authority to obey the judgment and vacate the property.
The property was officially handed to us. So it's not like it's being kept in custody for anybody. It was officially handed. So we are our clients rather are legitimate owners. Currently, they hold legitimate title. Now, by conniving to come back and take over the property 2 weeks after enforcement, it means ENL, under the leadership of Prince Clement Adesina, has violated the law and has contravened the law.
I'm calling on all Nigeria to stand up against corruption and then defend the right of a common man by ensuring obedience to court order.
However, the Federal Housing Authority describes the protest as unnecessary since the matter is already before the Supreme Court. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Managing Director of the Housing Authority, Professor Muhammad Alamin, said a court order from a federal high court in Abuja had in July 2017 asked all parties involved in the disputed land to stop any action pending the determination of the case at the Supreme Court. Though the protesters claim their rights have been infringed upon, they will have to wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court on the matter.
We're reviewing the papers this morning on Sunrise Daily, and a very special guest is with us to sink his teeth into that. The special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. And Merry Christmas too.
Merry Christmas.
Despite the
Merry Christmas to Nigerians.
Despite the conditions that we are facing.
Oh yes.
Let's look at the Tribune newspaper, which I have with me. The lead story here says petrol landing cost hits 171 naira per litre. That's ascribed to the NNPC GMD. It goes with a couple of riders to it. Says that government paying 26 naira subsidy per litre. Consumption of PMS rises to 50 million litres per day. Fuel scarcity regrettable, ascribed to Mr. President. Fire releases 80% of government house fuel dumps to public. And this is worst yield tide ever. That's ascribed to the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. If you want to read up on that story, it continues on page 7 and 8. But, Mr. Adesina, what do you make of this situation now? It does seem that 171 naira per litre is the record for the landing cost of petrol, which means it may even go higher.
Yes, that's coming from the GMD of NNPC, so it should be very reliable. But then one thing that should be added to that, which another newspaper carries, is that despite that, fuel remains 145 naira per litre. That shows that government will continue to bridge the gap.
You mean we're currently subsidizing?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely.
Not
as high as it used to be in the past, but there is some subsidy that government still pays.
Some people will ask, how sustainable will that subsidy
That is
be?
the big question. That is the big question. When fuel price went to 145 naira per litre, it was not full deregulation. Maybe if Nigeria had fully deregulated, we would not be in this quagmire. But then, you know that the burden you can also heap on people at a particular time needs to be measured.
Because if we go the way of deregulation, some experts argue that it will hurt an economy that is not producing, an economy that you have a weak currency, and you have that very likelihood that the prices at which people will buy petrol may hit somewhere in the region of 800 naira. So would you prefer
Diesel.
deregulation or maybe liberalization of that space?
You know, diesel has been fully deregulated for a number of years. Some people are also suggesting the diesel model. But here, I do not have an opinion.
Okay, let's drop it at that for the Nigerian Tribune.